Hello and welcome to this edition of the Grow with Moin podcast. I am your host, Moin Zafar, and today I have with me Samantha Warren, who is an intuitive energy healer and a Psych-K practitioner. We'll get into all of those in today's podcast. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you for booking this time and having this conversation.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Anything to help share and spread message and love.
Yeah, love it. All right, so let's get right into it. So you are an intuitive energy healer. So if that was your superpower, how would you describe your origin story of getting there, of getting that superpower? How did it start?
Oh my gosh. Whenever these questions come about, I feel like it's a bit of a loaded question because there's so much to it that it's not just one point in my history where I was bitten by that spider and all of a sudden I have these spidey senses, as I like to call it. It was more of a fostering, as time went on. So growing up, my father is more into the paranormal and into the energy, and kind of was very much into law of attraction. And I grew up with a lot of that, the Celestine prophecies, and he would meditate underneath a copper pyramid that he would make. And he was a photographer that would love to go take photographs of ghosts and haunted houses and develop the film and take a look at that. So I had someone in my life who was very much like, oh, you had a dream? Okay, let's talk about it. Or, oh, is it a dream that you want to hold dear to your heart so it can come true? Then, he fostered a lot of that, of like the magic of energy and of the unknown, or what we deem as the unknown. And through all of that, that's how all of this just kind of came. And it was little by little, until I got my first tarot deck at, age 19. And then as I was just like moving with my tarot deck and just kind of like being playful with it, it's just kind of grew and grew. And my intuition just started to develop even more in my 20s. And then as time went on, it just kind of came, and then it comes and goes depending on how serious I am about it. And then it wasn't until, just before COVID when, I saw a psychic and she's like, you have healing hands. Why don't you do anything with it? She's like, you were so intuitive. She's like, you're so tuned in. Like, why aren't you doing anything with it? And it was in that moment that I was like, you're right, I do. Like, it was kind of like I needed the permission to execute on the intuition that I have and what I can offer for the world. So.
Okay, so a lot to get into there, but thank you for sharing. Okay, so do you want to describe, first of all, why do you want to do this? Why are you doing your practice with intuitive energy healing? What is your why?
Yeah. So from a young age, I've always wanted to help people. Mm-hmm. Like right off the get-go, I wanted to be a teacher. And that was the only way I knew to help people. Because I was like, oh, I really like my teachers and I like what they're doing. And, so I thought that's what I was going to do. And as I grew older, I still wanted to be a teacher, but I knew that there was something big inside of me to help people with. And then I decided didn't want to be a teacher later on, tried all these different things out. And I realized that over the years that this is just a way for me to help people. Like, this is a skill that I have. This is something that I can tap into. And other people have been able to benefit from it, just even if it's just a moment of clarity or a moment of being given permission to do something, or just even having some peace of mind around a query that they have. And I do what I do because I love to help people. And if I can help people just one step closer in their journey, that's what I want. That's what I want to bring to people, you know? And my whole thing is like, you know, allowing people to discover their inner magic again as well. And if even I'm able to do that just through some insight that comes through, a download that comes through, then that's how I can offer that to the world.
Love it. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you talked about this before, but my name literally means a person who wants to help.
No way. I did not know that.
Oh, I thought we talked about it, but okay, now
No,
you
I don't.
know.
Well, maybe. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. Well, you know, you're living out the prophecy of your name then, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, doing
Yeah.
what
Oh,
I
that's so
can.
cool. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love it.
Okay, so you're saying did you say you started this intuitive healing practice just during COVID?
Well, I mean, I've been a Reiki practitioner and do
Okay.
theta healing for a year. Like I've been a practitioner for of these two modalities for a couple of years now, but it was kind of just like, oh, it's just something nice to have. You know, being a restorative yoga teacher, oh, it's nice to have this modality so I can, you know, go throughout the class and offer some Reiki throughout the, you know, throughout it while they're in the poses, or you know, it's just something nice that I can offer for myself or those, you know, around me. It was never something that I intended
Hmm.
to do as like a career move or, you know, have as part of my career um, before. And then it wasn't until, until the start of COVID that it started for me.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
cool. So a couple of things. So let's back up a little bit. So you're a
Mm-hmm.
restorative yoga teacher, which I forgot to
Yes.
mention,
Yeah.
and you're also a Reiki practitioner. So,
Well, yeah, go ahead.
okay, so for those of you listening, those are the people who are listening who do not know what Reiki is and what restorative
Mm.
yoga is, just give them like a poor man's definition of what that is.
Yeah, for sure. So restorative yoga is a form of asana, form of yoga. However, it is what I like to call nap yoga.
Hmm.
You know, the asana that we tend to know is the very quick, fast-paced type where you know, you're in the pose and you're moving and it's dynamic and there you might be sweating, but you're building and you're grounding and maybe even working on your balancing postures. Whereas restorative yoga is really allowing the nervous system to rest. It's giving yourself that space, that time, the opportunity to basically relax into these shapes. And one of my teachers said it best, you know, in a traditional asana form, we go to like 100%. So if we're looking at a barometer, we go to 100% or even more. Like that's how much energy we put into it. Whereas with restorative yoga, you're taking it back to like 70, 75% at the most. So we use props to hold you up so that you're not sitting there having to use your muscle and to use the strength to hold yourself in that pose, but rather you're allowing yourself to melt onto it. You can soften the shoulders, you can soften the back and the arms and the legs, and just know that you are held and supported in those shapes there. So that's restorative yoga. It's a beautiful practice for those who are you know, needing to relax and de-stress and needing some place of, you know, like reprieve. But it's also really good practice for those who don't know how to.
Yeah.
For those who don't know how to slow down. I've had students sometimes sit there in class and they're like twiddling their thumbs because I'm like, I don't know what to do here. And it's actually the best place for you to practice that, you know, because you are held in that space for that to happen.
Yeah. I love that
Yeah.
definition of melting into the pose. I've tried
Mm-hmm.
restorative yoga before too, and it's so good. It's just like a nap time, but you're also
Yeah.
stretching and pushing a little
Yeah.
bit. But really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so let's talk about Reiki now.
Yeah. So Reiki is a ancient Japanese energy tool. I want to say a tool, energy medicine, maybe is probably the best word to describe it, where we are channeling, you know, the powers of up above, whether you call it your higher self, source, God, universal life force, whatever you end up calling it, we are channeling that energy in through the crown of our heads and out through our palms. And what we do with this energy is we work with the body either in person or you can even do it remotely to help navigate whatever their query is. So let's say someone's coming to me and they're like, I am feeling a lot of grief and I just want to help relieve some of that grief. Well, what as the Reiki practitioner does is we tap into their higher selves as well as whatever energy that comes through. And we work along the body to maybe the different spots where the grief is held in the body. It might be that grief is normally in the lungs according to traditional Chinese medicine, but it may not be resting in the lungs. We might be finding it in the hips. Mm-hmm. We might be finding it in the back. We might be finding it at the head or the ears or even the feet. And we work with the energy that is in those parts of the body to not only help release it and to take it out of the body, but we're also drawing that universal force energy into the body to help bring more vitality in it, to bring more light with a capital L into it, so that there is healing happening there. And depending on the practitioner, but my teacher always said, find the medicine that's in that area for that person based on what they need to hear from their query or whatever is coming through. So that's what we do with the Reiki. And then we help to clear a lot of that energetic, stuff that's happening in the body that's not, that's helpful for what we need to learn, but it's not helpful to hold on to long term.
Gotcha. Thank you. Beautiful explanation.
Thank you.
I love it. Okay. So now we know what those are. I want to talk about, so obviously these are not conventional career choices.
No.
Let's talk about some of the obstacles or challenges you had to face getting to where you are now. What was the support like? Were you always supported to pursue this? It kind of sounds like you were because your dad was kind of into this stuff, but I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, for sure. So I love that you're asking this question because my story is not of a normal one, in a way that we've been navigating. So like I said before, I've always known that there's some sort of, I'm meant to help people in a bigger way. And I always thought that was teaching, because as much as my dad was very much, into the esoteric and into the paranormal and very much kind of did his own path, being the black sheep of his family going into photography, I was still very much kept in a box of potential. They only knew what they knew, my parents only knew what they knew. And I didn't really know much about the different ways that you could earn a living or to help people. So I was very much stuck in, oh, I can be a teacher. Oh, I don't really want to be a teacher. Okay, maybe I'll be a nurse. Ooh, can't stand looking at veins and drawing blood. Okay, so maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do that. And so I stuck myself in these boxes of predictability, of, what's deemed normal. I was going into doing HR management and then realized I didn't want to do that. And then fundraising and realized I didn't want to do that. And, there was all these different places where it was just very normal. All the jobs that I thought I wanted to have were very normal. And the challenges that came with that was the frustration of knowing that I have something to offer and something to give, but I couldn't find what it was. And that was the challenge, was getting over my own internal thinking of the limitations that I had set for myself. And then also the challenge and the struggle, I want to even say, to persevere, to move through all of the stuff that I thought I needed to move through. And even as the years went on, when I was kind of like, okay, I'll teach yoga and I'll do this and I'll do that, there were still labels that I was putting on these careers that I was wanting to achieve or move towards. And by putting those labels on, I was actually limiting myself to the possibilities that were out there. And, and then, at the start of COVID, when all this was happening, it was just more of oh, I don't need to have a label as to like what I'm doing and who I am to fulfill what it is I need to be fulfilling in my life, you know? And that's where Psych-K kind of came in too, where it was like, no, let's break out of those limitations and those ways of thinking. Cause, yeah, like I had the support from my parents the whole time. Like they were kind of like, do whatever you want to do it. Like it wasn't my parents. It wasn't any of that. It was all in me. It was all my limitations. It was all of me thinking I need to be in this certain box when in reality I needed to like break out of the box and do my own thing. That was the challenge. Yeah.
That is very unique, because usually when I interview people and I talk about challenges, there's always things in the environment, whether it's the parents or peer pressure or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's normal to have that, but yours was an internal compass and guidance. So what would you say was your biggest breakthrough? I know there might have been compounded over time, but what would you, if you think, look back now, what was the biggest breakthrough that helped you like break out of the normal?
That helped me break out of the normal.
Mm.
That's a good question. Well, the first breakthrough that helped me break out of the normal, even though I was still kind of in it, was about 8 years ago when I quit my job, because I was always that person too, where I was like, I don't want to be in a job that doesn't make me happy. Like, I just can't. I'd rather go move back in with my parents and look for a job than continue at a place that never felt good for me. Like, I was always that person. So I had just recently left a job and I woke up, but before I opened my eyes, I heard this little voice that said, "You're moving to Melbourne." And I was like, before I even opened my eyes, I'm like, "Australia?" And I heard, "Yeah." And then I opened my eyes and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's something that's happening." And how that helped me break through the normal was because I kept getting questions of like, "Oh, do you have a job?" "No."
No.
"So you're just gonna go there?" And I'm like, "Yep."
Yep.
"Do you have a place to live yet?" "No." They're like, "Really? You're just gonna go and wing it?" I'm like, that's the only way I can do it. Like, I can't prepare for it. I didn't prepare for this. How can I prepare for that? And that trip was what broke me out of that form of normal in the box, because it opened me up to personal development. It opened me up into spiritual development. It opened me up into this other world that is now becoming my life even more. So I would say that was the first moment of it. And it was like the best year of my life being there too. It was just, it was amazing. And then the second breakthrough moment happened a couple years ago, where I learned about human design. Are you familiar with it?
No.
So I'm not an expert in it, but it is a internal map system, or blueprint system, I should say, that helps you determine, I wouldn't say determine, but it helps you to like figure out who you are based on like the astrology and stuff. And so, but they're not trying to tell you to like be this, do that, do that. It's more of like, hey, as a generator or as a projector type, this is kind of a standard of like how it feels to be you. And if you're deviating away from it, it could be it could be the reason why you're not feeling happy. And just learning that system just really kind of allowed me to understand myself a lot better, and that there was something else out there.
Human design?
Human design, yeah.
Interesting. So it's like a program that you sort of get?
Well, you can, I mean, there's so much to learn about it right now. Like you can go on YouTube and figure it out, but if you just Google human design chart, you're going to get taken to a website where you're going to put in all of your information. Again, like you need to know your time and place of birth. And then through that, you'll just get like this chart, and it's going to look so bizarre and so weird. And you're going to be like, I have no idea where to go from this. And I'm someone that likes to kind of like dig as far deep as I can possibly get about something. Like I will deep deep dive for a full day on something that I'm like super interested in. And then I'll come out with the information that I need to move on. And that's what I did with that. And it was just so fascinating to learn more about myself than astrology could ever give me. And it kind of gave me a little bit more permission to venture the way that I need to venture in through my life. And so I kind of started to move along in that way there. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that part of your life. And I'm drawing some similarities. You mentioned you were into HR. I studied HR for 2 years in undergrad, and then I switched my major.
Yeah.
I realized I wasn't really into it.
Nope.
And I also quit my job for that same reason, because I wanted to do something more.
Yeah.
So pretty cool.
Yeah. It's amazing how much the human spirit, just when you listen to it, it's, I don't know about you, but for me, it just screams at me. It's like, get out. Yeah. You know, it's like, we're not happy here. And some people are. Some people can do that thing and they're perfectly fine with it. I say kudos and do that. But if you're human, if your spirit is saying to you, like, get, you know, GTFO, you know, then I say listen and follow what needs to come through you.
Yeah, and it takes more than just listening, right? It takes courage and strength and effort on your part. And I think everybody has that voice. Some people just choose to ignore it, and whatever the feeling is, I get that some people are happy doing what they do, and which is great. Yep. But some people are not, and they just get attached to, at the end, over time, like that feeling of not being happy, or just attached to that anxiety. They're like, oh, this is what I know.
100%. There's, I mean, like, I just finished the Joe Dispenza book, You Are the Placebo. And I just learned that, like, even though I knew it was, these books are just confirmation of everything I just knew intuitively, right? And no, it's, you become addicted to, because the chemicals that are released into your body through those thought forms that you have, the more that you have those thoughts, the more the chemicals run through the body. So if you're just going to be addicted, or you become attached to the fact that, like, oh, I'm unhappy, oh, my job sucks, oh, it's just the way that it is, yada, yada. Yeah. Not only is that your beliefs around it, but your body becomes addicted to that. Your brain becomes addicted to those thoughts because of the chemicals.
Exactly. And the longer you stay, the bigger and bigger the risk starts to get, right? Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
If there's something that you really want to do and you don't have a conversation about it with someone who's actually done it, it's going to be a very difficult path. And that's something that I've learned through my experiences, you know, of writing a best-selling book, of starting and failing at a business, of starting this podcast and learning how to interview and be interviewed on other podcasts. And so I want to tell you that I had help. I had a lot of help to get to where I am today. And I want to offer that back to you. Everything that I've learned through my experiences, hundreds of hours of personal development, and having something in mind and actually going out and doing it, I want to offer that back to you. So if there's something that you really want to do and you think I can help you out with that, reach out to me and book this 30-minute call. It's absolutely free. There's no commitment, and I'm not going to sell you anything here. All I'm doing is seeing if there's any way I can add as much value to your life as I can. So if you're interested in that, click that link and let's start talking about your dreams.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about Psych-K. Now, Psych-K, we met at a workshop, the advanced workshop, not too long ago. And then you went on and took on the masters as well.
I did.
So let's explain what Psych-K is. And we'll talk more after that.
Okay. All right. So Psych-K is a simple yet rapid belief transformational modality or tool that shifts the subconscious goals. Scratch that. It aligns your subconscious goals with your subconscious beliefs with your conscious goals. Got those things mixed up there. So it's a really powerful, I'm sure you've experienced it as well, but it's a really powerful tool to have when we're working with the subconscious subconscious. We're working with the beliefs, the perceptions, stress, traumas, patterns, anything that's limiting us from achieving the things that we know that we are greatly able to achieve. It allows us to become whole brain to, the things that we never thought were possible before.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to say, like, so I have, this little sticky note right there, was from the master facilitation, and it was perfect for me. And I never thought it would be for me until it came out, which was, I create and conform to my own social rules. And I have to keep that there as a reminder of, right, no, that is totally possible. And I didn't think it was. And now it's a part of my subconscious beliefs. And now it's becoming a part of my reality. And it's just so powerful that something, that small little sentence, that small little statement is just making this ripple effect in my life.
Yeah. And if you were to go a little deeper, and obviously I've talked about this on the podcast in the very beginning, and so beliefs and subconscious beliefs are something that are programmed into us when we're very young. And I think you've read The Biology of Belief as well, by Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he talks about how our brains are in the theta state when we're young, and everything that's happening around us, we're recording and making rules. And after that, we shift into delta, and everything that we have recorded, they become our programs, our way to live in this world. And there's no filter, right? Whether it's good or bad, it's in there, and it's sort of running your life in the background, whether you like it or not. But you can shift those. And there's a lot of tools that you can use to shift those. There's hypnotherapy that helps with that. There's NLP, and then Psych-K. And I sort of rate them in that order too, as Psych-K being like the top one, because it just helps you shift things so powerfully and so quickly.
Yeah.
It is so magical. And
yeah, no, that's a great addendum to what I said too. Ooh, there we go.
The camera's losing focus.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so now you've done the master for Psych-K, and you're sort of going on this career path as well. So let's shift our focus a little bit from the professional, and let's talk about the most spontaneous thing you've ever done, other than going to Australia.
Oh,
I already said that.
I was like, that is probably one of the most spontaneous things I've done. Oh goodness, spontaneous. I'm trying to think of like appropriate ones as well.
Oh, you create your own social rules.
Oh my goodness. This is okay.
Could be what you may have thought was spontaneous at the time, but now you look back and like, no, maybe not really.
You know what? I'm going to say, okay, the last spontaneous thing that happened, because I feel like the spontaneity is actually like moments of synchronicity. Like they happen because you're meant to be there in the way. So, I would say the last moment of spontaneity that occurred that I'm like, oh no, it was just it was a synchronistic moment, which was me signing up for the basic Psych-K program. It was something that showed up for me at the beginning of 2020, and I kind of put it off, and then it kept coming back, and so I signed, and not knowing what it is, not having a session, not knowing anything about it, I signed up for it. I signed up for the program, and it was like 2 weeks later that the program started, and everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. They're like, why are you doing it? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like I need to be there.
Okay, that is pretty spontaneous.
Yeah. And especially considering I'm like, no idea what it is. My neighbor told me about it at the beginning of the year, and that's, and then here we are today. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. I actually, when I first read about it in The Biology of Belief, I think I went on their website. I like looked at the facilitators. I somehow connected with Mary, and then like had a couple of sessions with her, and then I sort of signed up.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah,
So
yours.
you had a little taste of it before.
Yeah. I wanted to know what it's like, and then
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is it for sure.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's how most people move through how they end up where they end up, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not me. Not me. I had to experience it while during the process of it all. So.
Yeah. Which is also like, must have been pretty amazing once you like got there and learned. I know I
Oh,
was.
it was fantastic. You know, I even had a moment on the way to the workshop where I basically was like pleading to my team. I was like, listen, guys, I have no idea if this is something for me. Like I told you before, Moen, that I was persevering through so much. I was trying all these different things to kind of figure out where it is I'm meant to land. And I said to them, like, listen, like, I signed up on for a whim. I have no idea what this is. You need to let me know if this is something I need to stick with, or else, like, I want my money back, essentially.
Right.
And I showed up. And for the moment I set my foot into that room, I was like, this is exactly where I need to be. My spirit, or my animal guide, I should say, is the snake. And Mary was wearing a shirt with a snake on it and a couple
Nice.
snakes on it. I was like, okay. The shirt was blue and purple, and those are my two favorite colors. And like they're part of my business colors. There was a vision I had with one of my teachers a couple weeks prior, and all of a sudden that it showed up on the PowerPoint that she put on. And I was like, oh my goodness. And there was just so many other different little synchronicities that were showing up within like the first 2 hours that I was like, oh my God, I'm here. Like, it was just so beautiful. And I wept tears of a joy at the end of the weekend, because it's such a beautiful process. And a beautiful
Blue and
modality.
purple, my favorite colors too.
Yeah. They're power colors. Yeah, I call them my power colors.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, so pretty spontaneous. And so what's been the most thrilling for you in the last 10 years? What has got you like really excited and pumped up?
Okay, I'm gonna put a big umbrella term around this because there's so many different little droplets that can come from it, but exploration. So exploration in the way of travel, exploration in the way of, inner growth, and knowing more about myself, the shadow work that comes with it, but also like the growth that comes from the exploration of like getting into the nooks and crannies, exploration of my soul and my spirit and of the ethers, and exploration through reading, exploration through working in the quantum, just the exploration and like the curiosity that can come when you're exploring different facets of yourself and of the world and in your relationships and everything. So that's been the most thrilling for me, because
I absolutely love that answer.
Yeah.
Be the explorer in your life. And I totally resonate with it, because whether it's through reading different sorts of books or trying out, or like even scratching an itch that's something that you've never done, and just going there and being there and just like pushing those boundaries and continue to explore, you're gonna have a pretty exciting and thrilling life. So I love that.
Yeah, you definitely can. If you're curious about life and about the things that you want to explore, absolutely. Being stagnant is what, keeps you bored.
Yeah.
And you're bored. And if you're bored in life, it's because I'm gonna rub some people the wrong way here. But if you're bored in your life, it's because you're boring. You're not exploring, you're not getting curious. And, sure, there's moments that you're bored because you're like, okay, I'm bored. Like, don't feel like doing anything, or the things you want to do, you can't do, which is whatever. But if you're just like consistently bored in your life, well, then
You're
I'm sorry to say, but you're boring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a fun answer. I love
Yeah. I know I'm meant to what's the word? Trigger people. That's one of the things that apparently I'm here to do in the world. So
yeah. Well, this is definitely going to trigger some people.
that will trigger someone for sure.
Okay, cool. What would you say has been your biggest, or what have you read that card as your like most powerful life lesson? Like you can scan back as far back as you want, or as far back as yesterday.
Yeah. So I'm going to share with you an experience that I had during a QHHT session, which is a quantum healing hypnosis technique. It's very similar to past life regression.
Okay.
Just different modality, but very similar. And basically, they take you into your past lives and to work with it. And I went into a past life that was the one just before I had in this life here, where I was born in 1920, and I died in 1974. So not that long ago. Compare it, like I was born about 10 years later. So, and we go through you go through the different things, and you go at like, what's the message that they have for you when they're on their deathbed, etc. And he wanted to become an illusionist. So, he wanted to work with magic and illusion and kind of like be like that. But his father did not want his son to do that because that was deemed abnormal. It wasn't deemed as something that you do in society. And so they made a compromise that he would become a banker or become something that was normal, so long as he wasn't pressured to get married or have kids or anything like that, because he didn't want that kind of a life. Right. So he became a banker, and that's how he lived out his life, was being a banker, and he was extremely lonely and was not happy in his life. And the message that he had for me, like this, in this life, was be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself. And that has stuck with me because in a way I was afraid to be myself for the longest time. Like even though I was like this free spirited kind of person who was like, quote unquote woo woo and into the ethereal and into tarot and all this other kind of stuff and the moon, I was still afraid to like own that part of me. Like it was a nice hobby for me, but I never fully allowed myself to like be it and to have it in my life fully as I am. And even still, up until probably, I want to say even a year ago, I was afraid of that too, and afraid of the repercussions, afraid of what my partner would think of me if I decided to, go down this route, and afraid of, what my in-laws would say about me. I would be afraid of what I didn't care about my family. My family knows me. They know all of that. That wasn't the issue. It was more of like the quote unquote normal people in my life. And what would they think of me being the black sheep or being the abnormal one? So that was my biggest thing, was just be myself, like just be yourself, be who you are unapologetically, and just allow that to guide you. Because if you don't allow yourself to be who you are, well, you're going to be like, one of your past lives where you die at 54 years old, lonely and unhappy. And that's not the life that you came here to live. So yeah.
Powerful lesson. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a contrast to, like in your past life, your father wasn't really into this stuff. And this life, you have a family that's supportive, and then you're still
Yep.
dealing with what's inside, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
play of life.
Yeah. Thank you for that reflection. I didn't even think of that. So thank you for that.
Of course, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I've had past life regressions before too, and it's usually an intuitive healer or like a hypnotherapist.
Mm.
They lead you into a meditative state, and then they ask you questions, and you'll be surprised by how much knowledge you have access to.
Yeah.
And you'll know how true it is because you'll feel it. I know I was crying in the middle of my session,
Yeah.
and yeah, very powerful, very powerful. But that's
Yeah.
something maybe we can do discuss at another time in detail, because that's like a whole other topic.
It's a whole, well, and I'm actually, one of the next things that I got a download from the other night was, oh no, like you're going to be doing past life regression and hypnotherapy soon. And I'm like how soon? Like you said it was 2 years ago, like 6 months ago, and now you're saying me it's 3 months from now.
Mm.
So yeah, no, we could talk about that definitely later. Yeah.
So that ties really into my next question is, what's next for Samantha the next 3 to 5 years? What do you see yourself doing?
Oh, 3 to 5 years. That's a big, so I always have trouble having set goals like that. Like I did a coaching program, and it's very much, about that kind of thing. And I've always had problems with it. I've always had problems setting those kinds of concrete goals, because there's so much that can happen that you don't even know about. Like I didn't even know that I was going to do Psych-K. Like I didn't know I was going to do Psych-K until 2 weeks before the workshop happened. Like I have to, there's goals that I can have in my life, but I need to leave a lot of room for what I call the magic to happen. Like all the things that really need to come into your life that are often brushed away because you have your blinders on. Blinders on in certain situations, I think, are absolutely phenomenal and necessary and needed.
Yeah.
But I also think that we need to keep ourselves open to what's happening. But like I said, what's next is, not only is doing this past life regression and hypnotherapy certifications, but building up my business, building up the Psych-K facilitation and the intuitive healing, and really offering myself as a divine channel for all that can happen. Because when I do my sessions, like I'm not me. And even during Psych-K, like I've just noticed over some times where I'm like, I'm not even like, this isn't me who's doing it. I'm just the vessel in which this is happening and operating from. So so it's building up my business, and then also doing the other aspects that are going to help, just tie into my business as well. So
okay, love it. So a whole lot of magic and
magic.
some business and hypnotherapy.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Yeah,
Love
why
it.
not, right?
Love it. So having things in your peripheral, but not like solid concrete, which is kind of like how I function too sometimes.
Yeah. It's nice to have things like, you're like, okay, I know what I'm working towards.
Mm-hmm.
And if that comes in, amazing. If it's not meant to be, it kind of dips in and out, but yeah.
Makes sense. Love it. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. Before we go, a message from your heart to anyone who might listen to this.
That's a great question. I just want everyone to know that you are magic. That even when you don't believe that you have magic within you, there is a little spark of it in there. And when you dial into it, when you sit with it or allow it to just bloom, and you unleash it and allow it to furl on out into your life, even if it's just a small little part, it takes over in every other aspect in the most beautiful way. So foster it, encourage it, don't shy away from it. Yeah.
Thank you Thank you, Samantha. That
Thank
was
you.
really beautiful. All right. So before we go, where can people find you, reach out to you, and, want to get in touch with you, get a session?
Yeah, so you can head over to my website, www.samanthawarren.biz.biz. My Instagram is at this.is.samanthawarren. And those are probably the two most primary places where you can get in touch. Those are the two places.
Awesome. And when the episode is out, I'll leave those links in the show notes so it's easier.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for being on. This was fun.
Thank you so much for having me, Moen. That's great.
All right.